Hey, Scott Klein, Dealer Profit Academy. So real quick, I had a contemporary recently ask me, he said, Scott, what's the biggest mistake? What's the biggest mistake you ever made after, 40 some years in the car business? And I think the expected answer was something along the lines of maybe a deal I couldn't close, a mistake in negotiation. It could have been all kinds of different things. I think it was what the expectation was, but it was really none of those. My biggest mistake had had zero to do with selling. But what it had everything to do with was what I believed about the customer before they even walked up or before I even greeted them. You see, when I first got into business, I didn't know anything about nothing. Every person who pulled up on the lot, to me, guess what? They all looked like a buyer. And I treated them like they were a buyer. I didn't know they had bad credit, or I didn't know that they were upside down in their trade. In fact, back then, I didn't even think those were even things that were going to be part of the deal, I didn't even know that people just actually came in to look. I thought they were there to buy. So I assumed that everybody was there to buy and they could buy and would buy. So guess what? I treated everybody exactly the same way. I followed the steps to the sale. I was a maniac on that. I gave every customer my best effort, my best attitude, and guess what? More of them bought than didn't buy. In fact, my first month in the car business with no sales experience, I missed salesperson of the month by just a half a unit. That's how close I was. The second month, I actually sold more units and was right there at the top as well. Third month, same thing. I was in a very competitive Honda store in South Florida, and I was like in the top, 1, 2, and 3 every single month. Life was good. And then something happened, and it almost creeped up on me without even, I almost really didn't even realize what was going on. I had worked a customer who owed way too much on their trade. I'd spent hours with people that couldn't get bought, right? And then I'd just have a few deals that, for whatever reason, just never happened. I'd run into customers who seemed impossible to close for whatever reason, just whatever we did, they just wouldn't buy, couldn't buy, or didn't want to buy. But what happened was, what I started to do was I started to label these types of situations and these type of customers. If a customer pulled in and they looked a certain way, I assumed they couldn't buy. If they drove up in a certain type of vehicle, I started assuming that they were upside down. So really, without even realizing it, I had started to pre-qualify people before I even met them. 6 months, I'll never forget, it was June of 1987. I looked up on the 20th of the month, I had 3 cars out. I always had 3 cars out by the 5th or 6th of the month. My numbers, they fell off a cliff. My attitude wasn't the same. My excitement was literally down the tubes. I wasn't attacking every up anymore. I was, trying to pick and choose which ones I wanted to work and which ones I didn't. I'd avoid customers. I was looking for reasons they couldn't buy instead of reasons they could buy, like I did when I first got in the business. And it was around this time too that the dealership, they had another training class. And guess what? I watched these new salespeople come out of this training class that never sold before, kind of like I was when I first got in business. And guess what? They had that same excitement that I had when I started. And I was thinking, man, just wait. Every customer to them, they look like a buyer. They didn't know enough to judge anybody. And guess what? Watching those guys and how they acted, it kind of hit me. And that was the difference. When I believed everybody could buy, more people bought. More people bought than didn't buy. When I started deciding who couldn't buy, guess what? That's when my numbers started to dip. That's when things went down the tubes. So here's what I learned. Customers, they can feel your expectations. They can feel your energy. If you think that they're wasting your time, if you have that attitude, guess what? You'll act differently, you'll ask different questions, and you'll rush the process because you want to get them out of here as quickly as you can and you want to get on to the next up. But If you generally believe they can buy, you'll stay engaged, you'll fight harder, and you'll just work the process better. And once you do all that, guess what? More people will buy. And more often than not, they'll surprise you even. One of my favorite quotes by Henry Ford, he said, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, either way, you're right. And guess what? Your customers fit in that same quote, because whether you think they're there to buy or whether you think they're there not to buy, guess what? You're right. And it's all up here between your ears, because your belief, they change your behavior, and your behavior changes your results. So if you're in sales, here's my challenge for you over the next week. Walk up to every customer with a mindset that, guess what? You guys, you're driving home in a vehicle today. You can think it, you can even tell them that. It doesn't really matter. Don't judge, don't pre-qualify, don't label. Everybody's there to buy, everybody can buy. Treat them like a buyer, more people will buy. Just work your process. You might be surprised how many more people buy when you believe that they can buy. So after 40 years in the business, that's my biggest sales lessons I ever learned. I'm Scott Klein, Dealer Profit Academy. Hope you enjoyed this. See you next week on the next one.